How's it going, everybody? This is Tim Rivera here, Dulthor Outdoors. Here to talk about a really controversial topic amongst hunters and just give you guys my opinion on this from my years of experience in the field. And that is the moon's effect on deer hunting and weather. But we're going to first talk about the moon. Now, what I'm going to come off the bat right now and say is I absolutely do not believe that the moon has any effect on the timing of the rut. There have been roadkill fetus tests done with deer over the years that show breeding is within a 3 to 5 day window on every single year, peak breeding. And here in Pennsylvania, that's about the 12th of November, which means that's about the time when most does are bred. So there's a few coming in before, a few coming in after, but that's when most of it happens. So, you got a lot of seeking those first few weeks, the first week to 10 days of November, even the end of October, when the scrapes are going on, scrape parades at the pre-rut. And then you got a lot of your breeding middle of November with, some seeking going on with bucks looking for, coming off of their first does and whatnot. And then after that, it really slows down for movement. But that being said, I do think the moon does have some effect on whitetail movement from what I've seen. And the three main moons I'm talking about are the full moon, the new moon, and the half moon. And I'm going to explain what I've observed over the years and how I try to hunt accordingly on each of those moons. Now, these generalities I'm going to give with these moons are assuming that a full moon, new moon, and half moon, same weather conditions, same time of year, just the kind of differences in movements. Those variables, the same. So let's start with the full moon. In my opinion, this is one of the most difficult times to hunt, just because, the deer are really feeding up at night because the full moon's bright. They can see clearly what they're doing, and they don't have as much reason to move during the day. But what I will say is this does allow for some of the best mid-morning movement. I think that's because a lot of these deer are already back to bed at this time, and they might get up, browse a little bit, and get back to bed. But in my experience with the full moon in the evening, you're getting a lot of that last 10 to 15 minutes of daylight movement, if any daylight movement at all. Now, during the rut, the full moon isn't always bad because that can really encourage some of that midday movement, that midday cruising around, that famous 10 to 2 o'clock during the rut. A lot of that happens during the full moon because, that's kind of their minor feeding period. And they've been laying down most of the morning and most of the evening or afternoon until they get back up for the nighttime, and that's the time they get moving up a little bit. But still is a very difficult time to hunt. Now, my favorite time to hunt is the new moon. And the new moon is when it's dark as possible at night. You really can't move well throughout the woods without a flashlight compared to the full moon where you really don't even need a flashlight to get in and out of the woods. In my opinion, the new moon is the best time for, again, all other outside factors considered equal, is the best time for daytime movement. You can get that first couple hours of the morning movement coming back to bed, but what really I notice the difference with the new moon is evening movement. Those deer that are moving during the full moon or during a half moon after dark, they might move that last half hour. Or those deer that are barely moving in the last half hour might move an hour or two before dark. My biggest buck ever on archery, that was killed on a new moon. Now, granted, it was during the rut and it was during the cold front too, but it was killed during a new moon. My second archery buck during the pre-rut, pre-storm as well, pre-rainstorm, was killed during a new moon, moving like 2.5 hours before daylight. And my number one buck, back to him, he was killed only a half hour before dark, but I had him on camera at dark. I did not have any daylight pictures other than one in velvet during the summer. So I definitely believe that moon phase coupled with the weather really helped him get moving. Now the half moon. The half moon is kind of like that mix between the two where it's not phenomenal movement, but there is some movement. And it's kind of like, if you have deer on a certain pattern going to a food source or certain cruising activity during the rut, it should happen as scheduled, not better, not worse. So, like I said, kind of in the middle of the full moon and the new moon. So, again, my favorite time to hunt is within 5 days both ways of the new moon, assuming all conditions are the same. Now, as much as I love hunting a new moon, the condition, in my opinion, that's even better than that, is a cold front. Coupled with a new moon is awesome. Especially like that, my number one buck that I killed. That was both a cold front evening, and a new moon. Now, that being said, with cold fronts, what I notice is, if you're in a state where you can hunt in September and get that early start in archery season, it really doesn't matter because they still are in that summer pattern and not fully shed out of their summer coats yet. And that even translates in states like mine in Pennsylvania, where our season typically is open to October. You still don't see much of an impact the first week with cold fronts. But once you hit to that 14th, 15th, 16th of October on, yeah, they make a difference. They really help deer either come back to bed a little later or get out of bed a little earlier. Especially when you couple them with running activity. If you're talking mid-October to mid-November, that time frame, that is really primo for cold fronts. And even when you're talking late season, if you get a super, super cold day in the single digits, as painful as that is to sit in, that gets deer moving because they can't sit that long in the cold. The other last thing that can get deer moving a lot is weather fronts. Like I said, my second archery buck I killed pre-storm, before a big rainstorm and after a big rainstorm. Those are great times to catch deer moving, either feeding up before the storm where they're not going to move for a while, or feeding up after the storm where they may have been down for 12, 18, 24 hours. Who knows how long. So those are things to watch for deer movement. I would probably rank cold fronts, pre and post weather front movements, and new moons as probably your best times for deer movement. Thank you for watching this Dual Throat Outdoors video. If you like this video, be sure to leave it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Also, be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram for more Dual Throat Outdoors content.